Tonight, outrage in Egypt. Thousands protest after Egypt's president is accused of assuming the powers of a dictator. Reports from Holly Williams in Cairo and Chip Reed at the White House. On this Black Friday, are the customers coming out? Seth Doan on what that could mean for the economy.
We're going to need a bigger car.
The Beatles' first audition.
I saw a girl in my dream.
And the executive who said they had no future in music. And Scott Pelley with the man who mobilized an army, more than 1 million strong, children helping children.
Kids are looking to get involved. They're searching for it.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Scott's off tonight. I'm Anthony Mason. 2 days ago, Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi won widespread praise for brokering a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. But today, thousands of Egyptians protested after Morsi granted himself broad new powers, putting his decisions above any court. Morsi called the move temporary, but at least 100 people were injured as protesters clashed with police in cities across Egypt, including Alexandria and the capital. Holly Williams begins our coverage tonight in Cairo.
Thousands of Egyptians poured onto the streets, furious with the country's first democratically elected president. They accuse Mohamed Morsi of behaving like a pharaoh, making a power grab by presidential decree. During the Arab Spring, Egyptians came together on Tahrir Square to topple the country's longtime dictator Hosni Mubarak. Today, Mr. Morsi's critics clashed with his supporters, while police fired tear gas canisters into the crowd. He's saying that he's our God, said this protester. He's made a mistake. And this woman said that after marching for freedom, the country's ended up with a new dictator. In Alexandria, an angry crowd stormed the offices of the Muslim Brotherhood, from which President Morsi draws his support. They ransacked the building and then set it on fire. From outside his presidential palace today, Mr. Morsi addressed the nation. He said the new measures are designed to cut through political gridlock. It was Allah's will that I became the president, he said, and we need to go forward with the new steps, not backwards. But only 52% of Egyptians voted for the president. Now many of those who didn't worry that Mr. Morsi wants to stifle democracy and impose his own Islamist vision on the country.
And we're joined now by Holly Williams in Cairo. Holly, given the scale of the protests, is there any sign that Morsi might change his mind?
Well, when President Morsi addressed the nation today, he sounded very firm. And if he were to backtrack now, that would be a big loss of prestige for him. And let's be clear, many Egyptians support him. They elected Mohamed Morsi because they want a conservative Muslim as president, and they want him to push ahead with his program of reforms. But for many more liberal Egyptians, they feel angry. They say that the Egyptian revolution has been betrayed, and they don't show any sign of backing down either. Now, that leaves Egypt, a country with so many problems, a country that's so important in the broader Middle East, deeply divided.
All right, Holly Williams. Thanks, Holly. So what's the reaction at the White House? Chip Reed is there with that part of the story. Chip?
Well, good evening, Anthony. So far, the only official reaction has come from the State Department, which says Morsi's actions, quote, raise concerns. In a written statement, a department spokesperson says one of the aspirations of the revolution was to ensure that power would not be overly concentrated in the hands of any one person or institution. But of course, Morsi's actions would concentrate enormous power in his hands. That puts the administration in a difficult position because President Obama called Morsi 3 times this week during the Gaza ceasefire negotiations, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton flew to Cairo to meet with him. After the ceasefire took effect, administration officials praised Morsi as a peacekeeper. Now, Anthony, the White House has to figure out how to react to a so-called peacekeeper who is stirring up so much protesting.
All right, Chip Reed at the White House. Thank you, Chip. The ceasefire in Gaza that Morsi brokered is holding despite a deadly shooting today at the border. Israeli troops fired warning shots at 300 Palestinians to force them to move away from the fence that separates Israel from Gaza. Israel considers that area off limits. A Palestinian man was later shot and killed. His relatives say he was trying to plant a Hamas flag when he was shot. Here in the U.S., it's Black Friday, the frenzied start of the holiday shopping season. Bargain hunters were out in force across the country looking for deals. Others were out just for the fun of it. 147 million people are expected to shop this weekend, and they're projected to spend $12.2 billion today alone. Seth Doan is in Jersey City tonight. Seth?
Good evening to you, Anthony. Retailers can earn as much as 10% of their holiday profits this weekend, which is why they've made shopping easier and earlier than ever.
Black Friday is usually a contact sport. But this year, an estimated 41 million people started shopping on Thursday, making for a more civilized form of chaos. Target opened Thanksgiving evening, but Carolyn Shin went early this morning to kick off the Black Friday second shift.
We avoid the crazy lines. We're not the midnight people, we're the 6:30 a.m. people, so we're kind of in between the craziness and the fun.
Holiday sales are expected to increase 4% this year, a smaller gain than last season's 5.6%. Toys R Us CEO Jerry Storch told us the calendar works in retailers' favor this year. It's the longest possible number of days between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
This store is teeming with people who are excited to be here. It's a celebratory atmosphere, actually, and it's also it's okay. It's also just an incredible sea of humanity.
The boost in e-commerce may be the biggest headline. It's projected to grow 17% this holiday season. Dana Telsey is a retail analyst.
Retailers are adjusting to the dot-com pressures by joining the fray. They're becoming successful dot-com merchants, investing more in their online websites, investing more in duplicating the experience of a store online.
Craig Berman, a vice president with Amazon.com, says they're expecting their best year yet.
We're entering a world of perfect information where customers have incredible amounts of information right at their fingertips, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet computer. So customers are able to go wherever they may be and check prices, check sizes, check availability.
Retailers are trying to integrate the online and in-store experience. iPhone apps, for instance, can direct shoppers to deals and can even allow them to earn points for just being in the store. The idea, Anthony, of course, is that once they're here, they will spend more money.
Seth Doan. Thanks, Seth. Walmart is the nation's biggest retailer, and Black Friday is extremely important to the company's bottom line, which is why workers at some Walmart stores chose today to protest for higher wages and better benefits. Here's Lee Cowan.
From overnight protests in Wisconsin to dawn demonstrations in Maryland to those taking to the streets in the California fog.
No justice, no peace.
What was billed as a nationwide protest against the nation's biggest retail employer didn't quite live up to the hype.
This is huge. I don't care how anybody looks at it. Stand up, fight back!
We first met Walmart employee Dan Hinman earlier this week. A sales associate in electronics, he was once the Employee of the Month. But today, he walked off his job to protest what he says are Walmart's low wages and high health insurance premiums. So what do you think you're risking by being out here today?
I'm not worried about any risk because I'm protected. I mean, I have the right to stand up for what's right, and so does everyone else.
It's that everyone else, though, that has Walmart suspicious. The company says few of the demonstrators were actually striking employees, but rather outside supporters, pressuring Walmart to unionize. The company's Duncan McNaughton.
In many of those locations, no Walmart associates took place. We had roughly the same number of call-ins than we had last year.
While there were a handful of arrests, Walmart says the protests had no effect on Black Friday sales. In fact, the company said it was the best Black Friday on record. Dan Hinman says it's time, though, that the employees get rewarded for at least some of Walmart's success.
We're not trying to hate Walmart. We don't hate Walmart. We hate the way their practices are. That's all. That's all it is.
Now, Anthony, organizers here say this is not the end of the planned protest, but Walmart is certainly doing its best to make sure it is. They've complained with the National Labor Relations Board, arguing that these protests are essentially an illegal attempt to disrupt business. Walmart, however, at this point is still waiting for the board's decision on that.
All right, thanks, Lee. The one-time murder capital does a complete turnaround. Was a Texas man wrongly executed? And Washington, D.C. was once called the nation's murder capital, so this caught our attention today. In 1991, at the height of the crack cocaine epidemic, there were 479 murders in the city. This year, that number stands at 78. That puts D.C. on pace to finish the year with fewer than 100 murders for the first time since 1963. In Texas, one question has haunted a family for years. Did the state execute the wrong man? Bob Orr reports this case raises serious questions that go to the heart of our legal system.
Rose Roton starts each day with a grueling 8-mile run. But that's nothing compared to the emotional challenge she's battled for the past 23 years, trying to prove Texas executed an innocent man.
If I would know what I know now, he would have never been executed.
The man was Roton's brother, Carlos de Luna, put to death in 1989 for killing gas station clerk Wanda Lopez. Lopez's cries for help were captured on this 911 call to Corpus Christi police. De Luna was arrested near the crime scene and identified by a witness. He denied the killing, insisting it was another Carlos who had stabbed the woman.
Very violent scene.
Absolutely violent.
Now, Columbia University law professor Jim Liebman says there was a second Carlos near the murder scene that night, who looked strikingly like De Luna. He was Carlos Hernandez, a man with a violent history and an obsession with the type of knife found at the crime scene.
It was almost common knowledge in Corpus Christi that this man named Carlos Hernandez not only existed, but had taken the blame for killing Wanda Lopez.
Liebman and his students spent 5 years reinvestigating the crime and have now published their proof of De Luna's innocence. Liebman claims police were sloppy. This photo shows a detective literally standing on the evidence. And this picture from the bloody crime scene reveals the imprint of the killer's shoe, an image that raises a troubling question.
So he's leaving blood all over the place, but there's no blood on De Luna's shoes.
Liebman also found witnesses who suspected Hernandez was the real killer. His former girlfriend, Mary Margaret Tapia, recognized the murder weapon.
This is Carlos Hernandez's knife.
And then there's Janie Adrian, one of the friends who heard Hernandez boast about the killing.
What did he say about Wanda Lopez?
That he had stabbed her.
We believe that Texas executed an innocent man.
You're 100% certain or 99% certain?
We're certain beyond a reasonable doubt.
DNA evidence that might provide that final 1% has been lost. The lead prosecutor told CBS News he stands by De Luna's conviction, claiming Liebman selectively picked through the evidence to back his claim of De Luna's innocence. Rose Roton disagrees.
I need someone to say, hey, you know what? We executed the wrong person. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's all I asked for. And take my brother out from being categorized as a killer.
But the one person who could have cleared De Luna is gone. 10 years after De Luna was executed, the other Carlos, Carlos Hernandez, died in prison. Bob Orr, CBS News, New York.
It's a glimpse of heaven, but visits to this masterpiece may soon be limited. Find out why next. One of Michelangelo's masterpieces turned 500 years old last month. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel remains a must-see for any visitor to Vatican City. But Alan Pizzi reports it may become a victim of its own fame.
From its most famous detail, God's finger reaching out to touch Adam, to images encompassing every aspect of Christian faith, The Sistine Chapel is one of the most famous works of art in the world. 5,500 square feet of frescoes, including more than 300 figures, were painted in just 4 years.
Jesus is in the background and he's doing different things. He's here.
But genius is now being threatened by the mundane. Sweat, dust and dirt, even carbon dioxide from the breath of 5 million visitors a year is damaging the exquisite art.
The original sin.
And for the first time, the Vatican has admitted it may have to limit visitors. Museum director Antonio Paolucci will have to decide.
This is dangerous for the frescoes. This is a problem that is necessary to control.
An average of 20,000 tourists a day make the pilgrimage, straining their necks to take it all in. Michelangelo would sympathize. Contrary to the Hollywood image, he painted it standing up. Leaning back all day to work gave him spasms, cramps, and headaches. "My beard toward heaven," he wrote. "I feel the back of my brain upon my neck." In the age when the Sistine Chapel was painted, the materials to do the job generally cost more than the artist. Today, with an average ticket price of $22, this room earns the Vatican more than $100 million a year. The Sistine is also the Pope's private chapel, and a chorus of critics accuse the Vatican of putting financial gain above art and sanctity. But Paolucci is pinning his faith on an upgraded ventilation system to protect the artwork. Grills cover openings in the floor to help circulate the air. Discreetly placed sensors monitor temperature and humidity. If it doesn't work, one of the great wonders of the world, conceived and created at a time when America had barely been discovered, will fall victim to the wondering crowds it draws. Alan Pizzi, CBS News, Vatican City.
A 12-year-old with a dream grew up to help millions around the world. That's next. Sunday on 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley has a story of Thanksgiving as a 7th grader, Craig Kielberger, vowed to make the world a better place. 17 years later, he's doing it with a charity that's mobilized more than 1 million kids. Recently, Scott spent some time with the founder of Free the Children. As he's grown, so has his charity.
Kids are looking to get involved. They're searching for it. And in an era where, adults often are looking for meaning and purpose in their lives, kids also want to assert who they are, not just by the video games they play or the peer groups they belong to, but by the contribution they make. And that's part of a youth's self-identity in the world. And not only is it good for the child, my God, our world needs it.
Craig Kielberger was a child when he noticed the needs of the world. As a 12-year-old in Canada, he read about the murder of Iqbal Masih, a former slave in a Pakistani carpet factory who was killed for campaigning against servitude. Kielberger started a charity called Free the Children, and in the 1990s, he traveled to Asia to convince authorities to bust illegal sweatshops.
What are some of the things that didn't work out? What have you learned?
Probably the lowest moment ever was the first time in Southeast Asia when we met children who we had freed before, who were back in slavery, to see that some of those same kids would end up back in the same grinding, back-breaking, desperate poverty. There is nothing that makes your heart fall more than that.
Turned out, kids he freed were pulled back into slavery. So Kielberger decided to attack the roots of servitude, poverty and illiteracy. Today, Free the Children is a $30 million a year charity in 45 countries, building schools and clean water projects. It has 2 million volunteers, nearly all under the age of 18.
Are we ready for We Day? We are!
9 times a year, Kielberger gathers as many as 20,000 kids at celebrations that he calls We Day. If you're under a certain age, Craig Kielberger is a rock star.
So Free the Children today is the world's largest network of children helping children. So what that means in practice is we inspire kids. Our bet that we're making is if you give kids the inspiration and the tools to change the world, it'll change their own lives also in the process. And the ripple effect is incredible.
The story of how Free the Children became a movement this Sunday on 60 Minutes. And that's the CBS Evening News. For Scott Pelley, I'm Anthony Mason. See you tomorrow on CBS This Morning, Saturday. Thanks for watching. Good night.